Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of TBR. I'm George Binns, and this evening we want to talk about social housing. And to help us understand the local area, we have with us Rosa Ordaz, the Director of Community Services, and the Director of Harborlight Homes, Andrew DeFranza. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us, George.
So, a lot of people that know about Harborlight think about it in terms of the big deal up on the hill, Anchor Point. The second edition is going in, and you just finished converting the old Briscoe Middle School, high school, into a senior center. And there's a lot more going on besides that. So what else is you guys up to?
Yeah, the team is, Rosa and her team and the others are really quite busy. So we're working right now, as you said, on finishing up Anchor Point, Phase 2. And that the Briscoe building, as you mentioned, is completed with our partners, Beacon Communities, and just last week was fully leased up. So that's 91 homes, apartment homes, and those are all fully leased up. We're also finishing a project in Ipswich where we're redeveloping a pretty large renovation project with the Ipswich Housing Authority at Agawam Village on 1A, right across from the YMCA and True North Brewery right there. And we're just about done with a project in Lynn called Catalyst, the Catalyst Project.
Yeah.
We have a couple others going on now. We recently permitted a site in Lynn, a new site in Lynn, and demolished an old building that was there. So we're working on funding for that site. And we have permitting and funding for two other sites, one in Hamilton, Asbury Commons, and one in Rowley, right across from the Market Basket, called Windward Crossing. There's a few others as well.
Yes, according to your magic list, you've got Main Street in Gloucester you're working on, Washington Street in Ipswich, Life Bridge Support. What is that?
Yeah, LifeBridge is the homeless shelter organization that they have a shelter on Margin Street in Salem. They also run River House in Beverly for homeless women, and they run a building in Gloucester as well. So we're working with them to permit the redevelopment of a chunk of Margin Street, which is sort of right by the post office, just south of the post office in Salem. And that'll create about 39 new small studio apartments for the formerly homeless, as well as a new shelter facility for LifeBridge itself.
Yeah, and then the School Street in Lynn.
School Street in Lynn is the one we just permitted for 66 apartments, and we demolished the building that was there.
Oh, that was the one you talked about earlier, yeah.
Yep.
So how do you figure into this game?
It's a great question.
It is a great question.
Yeah.
So I oversee resident services for various Harborlight Homes properties. I think specifically with what we're talking about today, my team at Anchor Point is also going to be organizing a lot of programming, workforce development, and educational opportunities for the 77 families that will be living at the two buildings.
Yeah, we're having the ribbon cutting ceremony next month or June.
Yeah, I think it is next month.
Next month, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to build a third building there called the Lighthouse Center, which is a philanthropically supported building, essentially a community center on the site. That's where Rosa's team is going to be delivering a bunch of the services that she just started scratching the surface on describing.
Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to get into a little bit. It's more than just providing a building with a door that you can lock and say it's your own space. There's something about, I guess you do after-school services for the kids?
Yeah, so we'll have some after-school activities, but the primary goal of the services team really is to keep people housed, so help them remain stable in their homes for a long time, and support the growth of the entire family. So specifically with Anchor Point, we will have programming that is focused on income and employment opportunities. A lot of workforce sectors like, the healthcare area and manufacturing, culinary, a lot of those sectors are looking for a lot of talent. So we hope to bring those opportunities after school weekends for youth and adults alike. We'll also have some fun recreational stuff just for the kids. You know, we have a lot of beautiful outdoor spaces that are planned with the last phase of Anchor Point, including a basketball court, a green field, pickleball courts, a splash pad, which the families are really excited about. And we'll also do some other programming that is responsive to what the residents tell us they want to see. So it could be, you know, GED, high set, it could be English courses, could be a variety of things. So that's really what we're focused on, is the growth and the health of all of the families at Anchor Point, children and adults included.
Well, I had a discussion with Senator Lovely a couple of weeks ago, and she was emphasizing that the way it works now, that any citizen in Beverly, or the state for that matter, can go to the community college and work on a certificate of something or other, especially in the healthcare field, which, as you mentioned, is kind of popular around town here. I think 90% of the people that work in Beverly are in the healthcare field, so it's a big business. Is there any way that you coordinate with them or connect with them?
Yeah, definitely. So we're still developing partnerships because it's still pretty early in the construction process, but you know, Beverly Hospital, Salem Hospital, Leahy, and a couple other like community colleges that offer certificate programs we're talking to. We've already offered 2 courses, one in phlebotomy and one in home health care at Anchor Point, where we've had a handful of residents complete the program and increase their employment and income as a result. So we hope to continue to do a lot more courses like that.
Tell me a little bit more about lobotomy. When I think of it in terms of the movie Shining or something like that, it's not a very pleasant operation.
Phlebotomy.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Yes, phlebotomy.
Phlebotomy, okay.
So, yes, so yeah, lab work.
I'm gonna listen, right?
Not lobotomy.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know,
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what is phlebotomy about then?
You put me on the spot here. So basically, it's lab work, right? Cells,
okay.
blood, a lot of those tests that get run
Taking blood
when you go to the
samples.
doctor.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
you-
exactly.
You take a blood sample out of your
Yeah,
arm.
so they did the whole thing. They did it on site at Anchor Point, which was huge, right? So we realized that accessibility and proximity really matters. So North Shore Community College was a great partner with Beverly Hospital, and they brought both of those courses on site at Anchor Point so that our residents could get there without having too many issues.
Do you have one of these lifelike dummies they can practice on?
Yeah. Lifelike.
You?
Yeah. Except I'm afraid
kidding.
of needles,
No,
so you have to be careful.
They actually did do real life blood draws.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, eventually, right? They kind of build up
Oh,
to
you
it. I
have to
think-
get to the real thing sooner or later.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, they started with like a fruit or something,
orange.
like an orange, and you practice, you know, kind of pricking it and doing it that way before you practice on a human.
Yes.
So
So you get into these kind of activities, I guess, where you're covering the kids after school so that the parents can work the whole day and not get dragged off. What would happen in a case like Beverly just went through, where we had a strike and the kids are loose all day?
right.
Is that something you can adjust for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So a lot of the after-school program is already in place at the Beverly Public Schools, right? It's run on site, so a lot of the kids already stay and participate in that programming. But I think especially, like you mentioned, you know, in the summer and downtime, we'll have organized activities for them to participate in. What we saw in the last strike in Beverly was that most of the parents were able to figure out childcare and coordinate that. It could be just because we have a lot of kids right now that are middle school and older.
Yeah.
As the population changes, it could be different. We did organize a couple of activities within the building to give parents a break. So I think if that was to happen again, we would probably try to do something similar, where we would coordinate some activities at the Lighthouse Center and provide some relief. I think also a good time to mention that we have a partner running the daycare, Pathways for Children. And so, we hope that the parents will be able to utilize some of their services as well.
So the parents would have to pay for this daycare separately, or is that part of the rent or?
Yeah, so it's a different process. So they're going to be running their own daycare license,
Okay.
fully insured,
So
all
it's
of that.
a separate entity
Right.
entirely.
Right.
You're just coordinating space and time.
Yes, and
Okay.
so there might be times where we ask for outside coverage and compensate them, and there's a lot of possibilities we just don't know yet because we're still about a year and a half out.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I mentioned, Catalyst, and basically it's a program for kids who have opted out or aged out of the foster care system in the city or the state. And this was something that really surprised me that you guys get into this, because you never start to think about, okay, a kid turns 18, you're on your own, boy,
Right.
girl, lots of luck, And I guess there's a lot of services that you provide as part of Catalyst. Are you involved in that also?
So the Haven Project is actually running the services for Catalyst, so I'll let Andrew talk about that.
Say,
Yeah,
Say again, please, who runs it?
Yeah, the Haven Project
Okay.
is our partner there. They're a Lynn organization,
okay.
and they do a lot of drop-in services for at-risk youth. They also run a coffee shop in Lynn on Monroe Street called Land of 1,000 Hills that they use as a workforce development place for students.
Yeah.
So we talked with them a number of years ago, and they were really struggling with housing. So we said, well, why don't we work together, and we'll build very similar to what we built in Salem for homeless individuals, small-scale studio apartments that are affordable to the user. The cost is suppressed.
Yeah, I think according to your brochure, it's 30% of their income.
30% of their income, including their utilities.
Yeah.
And so, so the way that's structured is the Haven Project, who is our partner, they will provide on site an overnight live-in aide, somebody who will live in there, who will be able to provide support for the young people, and also a service coordinator who will help the youth, as you mentioned, when they're 18, transition into adulthood, help them figure out what they're going to do for education and for job access and health insurance, and trying to help them like anybody would. I happen to have an 18-year-old, and there's a lot of support still going on there in my house as we try to help that child transition into adulthood. So in the absence of that at a family level, the thought is, how do you provide those kinds of services?
Yeah.
And so that's the plan. That's the plan.
Yeah. So that gets to be a rather massive undertaking, because I guess there's a lot of kids that will age out.
Yeah, there are a lot of kids, and it's and they're pretty vulnerable.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can imagine when I was 18, I was still in high school.
Yep.
And I thought I knew what I was going to do, and I had a family around me that kept me straight, kind of thing. But I can imagine this is one of, I guess, the concerns I have with the school system in general. Does the kid learn how to balance the checkbook? How do you file for insurance? How do you do all these things?
Right.
So there's a big vacuum, I guess, is what it is. That you just walk into it and make your way. And I guess a lot of kids don't make it. It can be kind of scary.
Yeah, and then it becomes an issue where it's not very good for them. It doesn't go well for them as individuals.
No.
And for us as a wider society, it's not very good.
Yeah.
It's expensive and detrimental. So if we can provide an intervention at the right time, right, where they can be safe and have a path toward independence, that's in everybody's interest.
Everybody can't go into the Army at 18.
They can't. They can't. Although, a lot of people could, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be a very attractive. And lately the military is having a bit of a problem filling the ranks. So back to the issue of Harborlight and all your various buildings. One of the things I got a bug on is more housing. And you just did a Zoom show a while back talking a little bit about some of the impact of potential tariffs and the goings-on at the national level, and how does this reflect down to what you guys get into? Do you get financing or services from various agencies? Because you don't all stand on your own and kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a great question, George. So it's, in the absence of anything being political, but just trying to give people a sense tactically about what we're going to do or not do based on what's happening. We have a variety of risks, as we always do, but at the end of the day, we're real estate developers and property managers. We have a certain constituency we're trying to serve, and to do that, we utilize a variety of financing mechanisms. We are concerned about the tariffs, particularly because we use a lot of wood and a lot of steel and a lot of electronic components, and those three things are often imported now, Canadian, Chinese, et cetera. And so we're concerned certainly about price implications on supply. In some ways, we had this reality during COVID where the price escalation was dramatic and it created real problems for us on the construction side. So we've done it before, but we're a little nervous. We're also a little worried about how things might be impacted on the interest rate market and how that may impact our ability to borrow money, which we do, as well as equity in terms of investors and their appetite. Turbulence makes everybody a little nervous, and so we're definitely seeing some anxiety out there that's making it a little harder to get things done.
Well, one of the other issues that comes up is people are trying to downsize, especially my age bracket and such.
Young people, yes.
Yeah. And where can they go? I mean, how many high schools can you take over, kind of thing?
Yep.
And one of the issues that keeps coming up is prefabricated housing, single-family homes, or what they used to call starter homes, which get you into a range of maybe 1,000 square feet. And I was looking it up this afternoon, thinking about having a discussion with you guys. And you can go on Amazon. You can buy one for $17,500, and they'll deliver it. And it's complete, kind of almost complete. I guess you got to plug it into the local utilities, kind of thing. But do you get involved in any kind of this stuff? Is this feasible?
Yeah, it's a good question, George. It sounds like Sears used to do, right? Sears could deliver you a whole house.
Yeah.
So it was, there's still some of those around, miraculously. So it's interesting you mentioned it. So the administration at the state level just produced a report with a committee called Unlocking the Future, and they had a bunch of recommendations in there for how to support new housing, more housing. And one of those was pre-manufactured housing. Yeah. And so some of the challenges are that, so we would definitely use it if it was viable, if it had some sort of a advantage, and it's being looked at hard. There are a couple of challenges. One is that there's not much of that being made in the state, and so it has to get trucked in from Pennsylvania or Maine and so the rules around how transport of product is created, if you're using big sections of modular, are pretty stringent. And so one of the things that was recommended was that there's a streamlining of transportation rules with DOT about how could you get things into the state and how do you create an industry base in the state, in Massachusetts, where this could get made and then used locally. So we're excited about the possibility. I haven't seen it yet where it's been used at any level of scale or it's had much impact on cost. What we have heard is that the impact you see on cost actually has more to do with speed and less to do with cost per square foot. Yeah. So if we have to stick build something and it takes 6 months and we could buy something and hook it up, as you said, and get the foundation laid, it's 3 months, it saves us 3 months worth of construction interest costs. And that's a good savings. I'm actually hoping to see the price per square foot built go down with some of this activity.
Well, if you're looking at 1,000 square feet and it's $1,750, that's $175 a square foot.
Right.
And construction costs around here are what, 300 and some odd change?
Yeah, easily twice that number.
Yeah. So that effect alone. And the other one is there's a company on the either on the South Shore of the Cape, I forget which, that prints houses with cement.
Yep.
Just to run.
Yep. Back and forth. Back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're fascinating to watch them do that.
Yeah.
So already there is
Yeah.
an industry of sorts.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and I expect
Yeah.
I expect you'll see that continue, because really we're building houses the same way we've been building them for decades,
Oh, yeah.
with very little. There's been very little efficiency improvement.
Yeah.
So the assumption is sooner or later this is going to start to take.
May I add a note before we
Oh
move
yeah,
on?
please.
Yeah.
So the other thing I think you were talking about, 1,000 square feet and just increasing options for people that are looking to downsize or starter homes is, the administration at the state level did pass accessory dwelling units by right. And so I'm thinking of this house that you can order on Amazon. It always comes back to zoning, right? Where it's like, what would the city of Beverly say? Is everybody allowed to buy one of these modular homes and put it on their lot or not? And so the statewide ADUs by right basically allows for any municipality by right to guarantee that a homeowner could build an accessory dwelling unit, even in single-family zoning. So like Andrew said previously about modular homes, it's the same thing with ADUs where we haven't seen it at a large scale. It hasn't had a huge impact on increasing units and housing, but I think that policy has the potential to also diversify housing stock in a way that might not require a lot of construction. Obviously, if you want to add, a new structure to your property, that's going to be more expensive than converting a garage or a basement, of which I'm sure some people already have, and this would enable them to register it and rent it out.
Yeah, and then that brings up another point too, that if you are a senior citizen and you have a house that's bigger than you can handle, and you can put a separate unit on the property, move into it, rent the big house, that's an income source
Right.
that supplements whatever they do to Social Security
Yeah.
and a few other things. But
Yep.
that gets into the other part of the issue that you raised of what's the zoning. And not in my backyard rears its ugly head every so often. And I know you went through a bit of a hassle in Hamilton trying to get that approved. And I assume you have a bit of a challenge in some other places too. It's not just Hamilton. But so I guess the question is, how do you get around some of this zoning issues? The ADU law is a major help because it says you got the right if you get a, but sooner or later somebody's going to put some limitations on it. Well, you can't put it on a 4,000 square foot lot. It's got to be a 40,000, or it's got to be a zone 10 zoning or better. So what kind of problems like that do you run into? Is it the hassle with the local municipalities a major drag on this thing, or time?
Yeah, it's we often find that the municipalities formally are pretty good. It's really whether or not you have opponents that are not municipal officials who are prepared to litigate, and the threat of litigation is a big risk, and that's also one of the reasons why the big for-profit shops come in with something really large, because they're trying to accommodate the legal risk. So part of Rosa's team has been working on the MBTA law, the 3A law, which has been not uncomplicated, and it's not a perfect panacea, but we're hoping that as it gets implemented, however it does, that it will also create some opportunity where the zoning is more permissible of multifamily creation, as the ADUs will be for smaller scale. But you're right, it can be the zoning that is created can be a dominant challenge in addition to the infrastructure limitations. So if you have places where, for example, there's no public water and no public sewer, your cost to create anything more than a house is very high.
Dig a septic tank, and
you
then you
got
got to dig a well for the.
You got it.
Yeah.
So that combined with the zoning makes for a really formidable prohibition.
Well, one of the other issues I came across is that 24% of the cost of a new project is driven by regulations.
I don't doubt that at all.
And I guess that gets to the other question of, can you guys have any influence on the local building code, the local board of whatever is that
Yeah.
governs these things, so that you can get some sort of break if you're doing one of these projects? Are they
Yeah.
susceptible to doing something for the good of the neighborhood?
Yeah, you can. I mean, we do some work at the state level and local levels where you're trying to get support for affordable housing development. But usually the municipalities are also struggling, and so there are, for example, we pay a significant amount of fees to build these buildings.
Yeah.
Not even just the regulations around zoning and complying with that, but for example, the water hookup fees or even the building permits. It can be hundreds of thousands of dollars just
Yeah.
for the fees. And every municipality has those,
Yeah.
or some version of them, and they need them for their own functioning. But to your point, it does raise we built a fairly small building on Cape Ann recently, and we probably had $500,000 in fees to the, either required by the town directly or features they required us to implement. And so it does get to be difficult. So it is possible, but it's not simple.
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the things that there are various organizations that keep pushing to improve the quality of the houses, and they think nothing of adding on, well, everybody's got to have an all-electric house.
Yep.
Or I think that they just passed a ruling that all new houses have to have solar panels on the roof. And you get into a lot of these things that, geez, that's nice to do, but
It's hard.
we're not in the business of having
Right.
spare money around just to do nice to do things, down to the bare basic minimums for these things. And so I guess it's a challenging business. I wish you guys luck.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thanks again for joining us this evening. And like I said, best of luck with your projects and keep up the good work.
We appreciate it. I hope you come visit.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And as I always say, if you got a comment, please send me an email. And if you got a longer statement to make, there's room for you here at the table. Thanks again and stay tuned.